morning.
Good morning, good morning. Happy day. How are you?
I'm doing so well.
Good.
We're off a little bit. We're on our Tuesday. We just got done with Labor Day. Happy
Yes,
laboring, happy days.
indeed. Yes, exactly. Why do they call it Labor Day? Maybe because most of us end up working, probably, right? I could see that.
I could see that. Yes. Well, how was your
I
so you
love
were
it.
down at the Wellness Expo in
Oh,
Conroe.
I was in Conroe. I love Conroe. I love the people there. I had an amazing weekend with some amazing people. It was busy. It's very fast paced, but I enjoyed every drop of it. We got a lot of rain in Houston, and I know that for those that have been watching the news, they've had a lot of flooding in
Yeah.
Houston. We didn't really get into the thick of that, but there was a lot of rain during the time
Mhm.
we were there. I had an amazing gallery. I had about 20-ish people at the gallery, and I had a couple people that come in from Michigan, so that was very exciting to me
From
to
Michigan.
come, from Michigan to come to the gallery.
Nice.
So that was cool.
Yes.
We had a lot of connections, as a medium for the gallery. I mean, I had some very interesting people come through. It was really rewarding. I got to tell you this, you'll get a kick out of it. I had a father that said to his daughter, "I want you to know that I'm around. I want you to know that I'm there. I'll try to leave you feathers if I could find them." And then a minute or two later, he goes, "Wait, wait, wait, wait. No, no, no. Tell my daughter I can't find feathers. I'm going to leave pretzels." I thought, what?
Oh my god.
So I thought, well, here we go. I said, okay. She said, that's funny. So he must be a snacker on the other side because his pretzels were easier than feathers. So we'll
Well,
see.
okay, so let's kind of break that down for people who don't know what a gallery is and what that feels like, but I have questions for you as a medium, of course.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So, for those that don't know, a gallery is essentially a room where it's essentially an opportunity for spirit to speak, but that you're not getting private one on ones with Terry. And you were saying
Absolutely.
you had a pretty busy room earlier. So, you said, so imagine 20 to 30 people all seated in different
I
spaces
love it.
and one Terry. And Terry has to receive information that is not always so evidently detailed, which then we kind of go into, and I love this. I don't know much about this because you are so authentic. Like I've been in a gallery with you. There's no hemming and hawing around what's up. You're so specific and you're so gifted. But most people know the Long Island medium.
Yes.
And for what it's worth, I like that she gives exposure to the other side. That's great. But I think people think galleries is like, ooh, I feel a grandfather, which we all have grandfathers. And I was like, ooh. So the difference with you, what I've physically been around is it's insane. You'll literally be standing, not looking at anybody, and then you'll just start describing an outfit. And you'll basically say, I see a man with a straw hat and he has green overalls, don't know why they're green, and he's got a giant pitchfork in his hand, but that, and before you know it, somebody is just crying before they can even say, that's my person. How do you can you describe what you see removing the human? Obviously there's 20 human people, but we know they come with their group. So how do you deal with that?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I do step away. And I know that's a very difficult thing to explain to the listeners because there's different, that can mean different things to different people. For me to step away, I step away from needing to be right. I step away from needing to analyze or to justify or to really just kind of explain anything. When I step away, I allow spirit to come through to tell me what's going on. I have different techniques, and I will tell you, I've had to be even more specific with my galleries because, it's no fun for anyone to go to a gallery and 2 people out of the group get chosen. And
Yeah,
the other, 98% are sitting there going, "I just paid for nothing." So
great
I'm a
point.
firm believer that if I have a group, a manageable group, no more than 30, 2 hours. That's a big group in 2 hours of time. I will talk to every single person in that room. My goal is to talk to every single person in that room. So what I do now, it doesn't mean I'm gonna talk to their extended family in spirit, but I will talk to someone, I mean, everyone, and bring someone. But what I've done even more so now, Sterling, is that I play a game of duck, duck, goose. I make sure I get to everyone. So what I have asked the loved ones to do, if they can't stand near their person because it's too busy, just stand at least and point to them. So
I love
now
that.
I'm able to say, listen, I've got your person here. I've got an example. I was in the front of the room and there was a woman up in the front and I said, "Oh my gosh, you have a very flirtatious husband on the other side." I said, "He is a spitfire. He was very playful, very funny, and he loves you to pieces, but he was a flirt." I said, "This is a man that always had a smart remark and always wanted you to hear it because he knew that you would think it was funny." And she just died laughing. She said, "Oh my God, that's my husband." And he was just chatty. He was talking and he was, kind of giving her some encouragement. And so we talked for a minute or two. You only have so many minutes.
Mhm.
And I thanked him and we moved on. So even more so than what you explained and described, I used to do that more where I had a vision of someone
Mm.
and then I found their owner. Now it's more of, okay, let's see, you, and you. Okay, your grandfather's here, your mother's here, your sister is here. Let's talk about your friend on the other side. Because
Yes.
I can start seeing them more. I see
So
them, I
you go
feel
to
them,
the
and
you go to the client first.
I go to the client first now.
Okay. Well, and,
But
let me go
both,
back on yes, I was gonna say,
both.
the only reason, I bring up the, because 'cause you're right, it is a little bit of an inefficient process to wait for someone, but I guess, like, I used to watch, um, I never watched the Long Island thing except for clips, and usually it's kind of being made fun of, and I want people to realize, I've never seen her start with a full, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't really know that I've seen anyone do that but you, because I think that there's a lot of you're very, very, very tethered, to the other side, let's just say.
Well, and I'm very grateful to be, very blessed to be. You were gonna say something?
Well, I
You had an
actually
epiphany.
well, I forgot I was gonna text you over the weekend. Speaking of the other side, how's your family? Is everyone okay?
My sister is still on this side, so I'm still very, concerned about her. She's got a very neglectful spouse. He doesn't really take good care of her, and she's homebound. She's on hospice, pretty much tucked in a room that he goes and basically gives her medicines and takes her to the bathroom and then puts her back in her room and shuts the door. And I mean that very, very harshly, actually,
Well,
but it's
yeah.
true. It's really a shame that we not a lot of us, but there are some people out there that tend to really neglect the people they should care about as they're transitioning.
Mhm,
So my sister is still transitioning,
mhm. Gotcha.
but so everyone else is intact, and we'll see what happens this week. I know that he's not offering her any food,
Mm.
so we'll see. We'll see. More to come on that.
Well, it was, like, around 6 p.m. on a Sunday, on this past Sunday, that I randomly thought about her and randomly thought about you because we hadn't been talking about you. And then I didn't wanna actually brought it up and I said, I'll text her tomorrow because it was kinda in the evening, and I forgot, but I was just wondering if but anyway,
She's still in the living world, although most of her spirit's not.
may I ask about that a little bit more? I know we talked about this a little bit last episode. In that transition process, do we is it like kinda getting our toe wet, we kinda ease into it? Okay, I wondered, okay, I was
Yes,
just curious.
yes,
It's kinda like,
and
"Ooh,
and,
it's
and that's
cold."
a Exactly, and that's the what right, we kind of feel it out.
Okay.
That is one of the good things about having a little bit of time to transition, is that in the state of mind, we tend to kind of visit the other side.
Mhm.
And so we kind of see who's there. Oftentimes we'll hear people say, "Oh, my mom came to see me," or, "My dad was talking to me when I was sleeping." If the veil is a lot thinner, we tend to go on the other side more. We're
Mhm.
still tethered to the physical existence because our heart's still beating and we're still in our body, but we do have an opportunity to get more familiar with the other side during the transitioning period.
Mhm.
And so that is a helpful thing. It does happen probably more so than not. I can typically hear that. I hear that a lot with people that are in hospice. If they're napping, I can kind of tap into where they're at, what they're thinking. And so that's been interesting to kind of help their family to know what's happening in their mind.
That's so beautiful.
Well, I love mediumship. I love being able to help, just in general. And I know that sounds, soft, warm, and fuzzy and cliche, but when you can help someone out, you really, to bring value to life is a real, real important task. And I take it very seriously. But I will tell you, getting back to the gallery, it was a blast. There was so many things that came through, so many people that came through. We laughed, we joked, we cried. It was incredible. It was actually incredible. And we did end the session. I just loved everyone in that room. We ended the session talking about the still a sadder part of this, the missing child, the 7-year-old that's still under the floodwaters. She's the only one not found in Kerrville.
Really?
So that's a missing persons case at this point. We know that she's not alive. I did connect to her.
You said she's not with us anymore?
No,
Okay, okay, okay.
no. I did connect to her, and I feel that I've got someone from that organization, some of the rescuers who I'm working with,
I
and we're
love
gonna see if
that.
we can find her. I've come close to where I believe she's located, but she's under about a foot of silt.
My
So
gosh.
we're trying to kinda figure out more details.
Okay.
So, there's a flip side to what we do. A lot of times everything is fine and we're talking and having fun with the loved ones in the spirit world. But working a missing persons case, especially when we know they're not alive, it's very hard sometimes because the person is still it's not closure for anyone.
Mhm.
So that's the way we ended our session. So I am working on that still.
Oh my gosh. I remember during training at the exact time that I was with you, I remember asking you to the Gabby Petito thing was still very, very, very active. And I will just say we did 3 classes on that. So that's almost a month for us. And very quickly, I realized that that's not something I was so excited to learn that because to learn the ins and outs because I thought that would be really, really, a way that I could give back. And then you really showed me, like, it is a heartbreaking and almost thankless aspect of spirit.
It
And
is.
I believed you, and I experienced and specifically, I'll never forget asking you about the woman that's still with us somewhere, in a bad situation and trying to protect her son by fulfilling her agreement. And I remember asking you, "Please tell me this was contracted." And you said, "This is just a series of bad free will choices." And it helped I've never forgotten that when back then I was still kind of partying more, like having a little bit more of an unstable experience of life. And I mean, I just never forgot that part of training of like, you can just make mistakes until you're in that situation. You're just allowed to do that. Got it. Because when you touch metaphysics, the first thing you kind of start thinking is everything that's meant for you will never pass you and it's all going to be okay forever. And you're like,
Ah,
I'd like to just make a note that while I do believe the universe has our best interests at heart in some ways, or at least,
absolutely.
but we can really free will out.
We can definitely free will out. I've always felt that the guides are, in the spirit world, spirit plane, but with us, and they're just shaking their heads and rolling their eyes, going, "Oh my gosh, here we go again." But free
Yes.
will's free will. We grow and know by making mistakes.
I heard this thing the other day, and it was not what anyone wants to hear, myself included. But I thought this was a great point, and it was somebody saying, "We spirit is giving us all of the help it can already. It's whether or not we can acknowledge and utilize what's already being given to us."
Absolutely.
And that's like a really because again, there is nothing that we have to do for our team to work on our behalf. We don't have to pray more, we don't have to serve more, we don't have to serve them. Like they don't need on our my favorite quote that I clipped and posted from here is you said, "There's very little we can do for the guides other than just try to hear them and be appreciative." Like,
Try to hear them.
but
That's right.
and so then I thought, how many times do people sit with us or how many do I ask you, "Well, but give me some more." Like, "But what more advice? What more clarity? What more?" It's like, I'm sure they're like, "We've said it all. We've said it in the numbers. We've said it in the energy. We've said that it's in your gut. We've said this in the back of your hair. We've said it
Right.
all."
Well, exactly. That's the beauty of free will and also the curse of free will. I mean, I would never really want anyone saying, "Okay, here's the rule book. Here's your day planned out. These are your steps." I mean, what fun would that be, right? But I'll
Great
tell you,
point.
sometimes when we get ourselves in situations that we're like, "I don't like this problem. Why did I get in this problem?" Well, we have free will.
And I'm sure the guys are
That's why
like,
we did it.
exhibit A, B, and C,
A, B, and C.
as they all percolated down into this one moment,
Right.
almost like Vanna
And you
White. And
don't
over to
always
your
get what you
left,
want.
and over here on the right is all that could have been if you'd listened to us. No, I'm just kidding.
If you listened to us, we would have had something better for you. But you made a choice, free will, go for it, enjoy. Our job is to try to keep you alive until you contract out.
Isn't that so well, and, to the point of ego versus not, right? And there is, if I have fear in my energy, I'm gonna project it out at some point, and then the fear might be, "Well, if you don't hear me, then what?" Like, it's like, well, if it'll be what it is. Like, just like if I don't listen to it, that will be what it is. Like, it will just always be as much or as little as we put into managing, for good or for bad,
Mhm.
like,
Right.
what we're doing, and it's hard to
Exactly.
but there's
Exactly.
freedom in that too, because 'cause you're right, I don't like people telling me how to live my life.
No. Even when we know what our efforts are creating, they're not always positive, right? Sometimes we do things that we wish we would have not in hindsight. But just having that ability, that freedom to do that sometimes is worth the effort.
Weren't like, if it weren't free will, I guess the whole point of incarnation would be busted a little bit, but I digress. I'm curious about in the gallery real fast, do they ever get stage fright? That's
Absolutely.
right, okay, like, what's that seem like?
Absolutely. Well, sometimes they're shy, and I'm like, "You know," and they'll go, "There's too many people in here." And
Oh,
I will say, "I understand, so give me a message that I can give to them that they will understand, but won't expose them."
aw.
And they'll give them a message like, "Don't forget." I actually had one like that too, that's a good question. A woman had had a lot of, trouble getting over her parents' death because they died pretty close together. And they had an anniversary coming up, and I didn't know what was going to be led into. I didn't know what the message was because the father was there and he was kind of going, "Oh, there's a lot of people, a lot of people here in this group." So he said, "Well, he said, tell my daughter that on," and I think it was like, can't even remember right now, like September 15th or 15th. I can't remember the exact date. We'll be thinking of her and make sure we get something good to eat for dinner. And I told her that and she busted into tears. That was their anniversary. And
Wow.
they always took their daughter out for their anniversary.
Wow.
So what that boiled down to was a message that she would understand that that was the date of the anniversary and she was always included. So she would go out to eat with them for their anniversary.
Well, and, and a thing about that, I told somebody recently, I was trying to describe this, but I was using spirit because I don't have these answers. And one thing as an answer to them, you know, they are almost it's very rare and related to newer deaths for there to be a message surrounding anything of detail of importance. Almost always, they're saying things that are very specific to and create warmth in the soul, not answer
Yes.
a question or answer a
Right.
material reality.
Right. Exactly. That's right. I had one father come through and say, "Stay out of my chair." Tell my daughter to stay
Oh,
out of my chair. And what was funny is that she had just started sitting in her father's chair. And she had not. She had
oh.
held it as kind of like, a nice little place for him to visit her. She started sitting in it, and he said that was first thing out of his mouth, "Tell my daughter stop sitting in my chair."
But then the question would be like, but he doesn't mean that because he probably loves that she's
No.
in the okay, I just wanted to clarify. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's because right. It's more of listen to what they're saying and apply it in a way that makes sense, and that was really to let her know that he knew she was sitting in his chair,
Yes.
which meant he was spending time with her, and that was important. And so the message was clear in a way that you had to kind of look at, like, okay, what does he mean? And he laughed when he said it. And I
Yes.
shared that as well,
Yes.
because it wasn't something that he was mad at her or
No,
mean to
right.
her. Now, there are some that will come through to the astral where the personality is very much intact. It's still not real emotional, but it's still there. I had a mom who said, "I'm sorry. I didn't act like I loved you, but I did. And I just was closed off from the world. And I've learned since that I'd lost out as much as everybody else did
Mm.
by not getting close to my family." And again, it wasn't like, "Oh my gosh, so sorry, I love you, I love you." It was a very real conversation of I screwed up.
In those scenarios where we are like, if you're, because, you're repping both sides, because you got to rep spirit and you have to rep the realities of the soul that's probably hurting or has been hurt or is attempting to have something healed from it. And at some point, because I've had this scenario, but not very often, where there's resentment, because how could you not, in the client?
Right. Right.
And so then you've got maybe a more callous or stoic spirit, basically just saying, I'm sorry. I realized what was up. I realized why it was wrong, and not offering that part that would actually probably make it inauthentic, but
Right.
maybe would make your client not feel so like that's all you got. I know that sounds that very human, but you know what I mean. We are human.
Right. We are human. And I know exactly what you're saying. And I always tell clients when I get messages that are like this particular mom, I said, we could continue our conversation with her. You could also decide that that's enough for now. And I can thank her and ask her basically to step off, step away. Or you
Step
can
off,
listen,
mom.
step off,
I'm just kidding.
step off. I
Get
got to
off
tell
our
you
lawn.
this. Get off our lawn. I gotta tell you, you'll get a kick out of this because, again, I don't care. I'll let that speak through me. Some people find that reckless. I've been doing this my whole life.
Yeah.
I'll know if it's reckless
Reckless?
by way it feels to let energy come through me. Like, and people go, "That's dangerous," and yeah, it is. Okay, don't get me wrong. I've been doing this
Yeah, you're not
probably
you're the
10,000 times. Okay, so far so good. Yeah, I've only had one or two times that I said, "Ooh, I don't like this." But
really?
But I had these people's grandfather who was an old goat rancher.
Okay.
And man, he came through and he was talking and I told him, I said, "He's here. I'm gonna let him talk until you tell me not to." And they didn't like him, but they wanted to hear what he said because they
Interesting.
knew all about him. They knew all about him.
Okay, okay. Like the
And I
lore of
sat
who
in a
he was?
Oh boy. And I sat in the chair and, legs splayed out. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let him talk until I get a signal that tells me no. I said, "I'm gonna give him a few minutes. Are you okay with this?" They said, "Well, yeah, we want to hear what he has to say."
Interesting.
He got into it. I mean, he loved the audience. He
I
loved
was gonna say, there was
everything.
a performance art here.
And in about 3 minutes, I let him have about 3 minutes, but towards the latter part of the 3 minutes, I started really rubbing my leg. I mean, like caressing my right leg. And finally, I went, "No," because I realized he was a ladies' man. That's what his whole thing was.
Right. That's okay,
He
that's
was a
what it
ladies' man. He had impregnated half the young women while he was married in their small community.
No.
And they took his farm away. And he told me about them
They took
taking the
his farm
farm
away?
and they took the goats. He told me everything in a short period of time.
Right.
But he also realized that he was energetically in my body. So then he started
Wow.
rubbing on my leg,
Wow.
which was my hand rubbing on my leg. And I went, "No, it's cleared. Step out." And I know my guides are right there to step him out.
Yes. Alright, I have a couple questions. One question just 'cause I want you mentioned the parents that died close together.
Yes.
That happens frequently, and I'm curious, like, when you see that arrangement, either, like, when it's already done where both parties have passed together in a short span together, or where one's, like, waiting for the other, like, is that predetermined, or is that more like, "You go first, like, let me know how it goes?" Like, is that conscious?
Yes and no. Okay, I do believe I'm a firm believer that we do have a plan of action on exit. That there is, and I always have. I've always felt that regardless of what, the most freakish of accidents are still planned, even though we don't consciously know that. So in that instance where the say a mother and father died pretty close together, we recognize, though, that we do have free will,
Mhm,
and we're not so resilient, with free will that we can talk ourselves out of death, or we can not have the right or the ability to also check out when we want to,
mhm,
okay?
mhm.
So in other words, if I'm gonna die by skydiving accident, but ingest a bottle of pills, I still could take myself out,
Right, right.
okay? Because that's free will. If I'm not actively trying to leave, then I'm probably gonna get through a contract that said, "Listen, you planned on this once upon a time, now you're exiting." When they leave close together, I believe there's a combination of all things. Yes, the contract was to leave pretty close together.
Mhm,
Sometimes it is free will. There is such thing as dying from a broken heart. We've seen it. And so we recognize, can you hear me? Looks like we're trying to reconnect. Let's see. We're reconnecting. Problem. To answer the one question that we were in the middle of, just to kind of summarize, if you want to spice those together, really, it does depend on what was contracted, or not contracted
right.
between the mom and the dad. Did they go simultaneously? Did they go a few days apart? Did they plan on leaving a couple months in between? Some of that was already predetermined. Free will steps in as well. And,
Mhm,
we have many opportunities to exit on our own way, in our own way, and that also happens. So there is no real simple answer to that situation. We do know, obviously, that when more than one loved one leaves and exits in close proximity of time to someone else, it's very, very hard on the family remaining. And
mhm,
so as a medium, when I see that, I do tend to be a little bit more sensitive, even if it's been a few years, because, it's kind of a double whammy. There's a lot of emotions around the death of losing a couple very important people close close together.
mhm. Well, and the next question I kinda had about the story about the gentleman who got half the town pregnant. Um, in
It
that
was so
sin
funny.
well, I know that you didn't, like, so in the Dune series, which I reference a lot because I think it just has a lot of spiritual background with it, there is sort of that understanding of these women who were able to consult with their, um, bloodline genealogy through spirit.
Mhm.
But the issue would have become what they call abomination, or what would be when the ego of someone from their bloodline was strong enough to essentially at least share or usurp the body. So
Mhm.
you're referencing, this energy that at some point realizing not only does he have a captive audience, but he also did have some relationship with the physical form. Is that a
Absolutely.
maturity that most spirit recognizes, or not at all?
Not usually. Not usually.
What do you think made that clear to him?
I feel, well, because he actually did. He was a cheater and a skirt chaser, and his objective was to sleep with as many women in their small community. So
Wow.
as a living soul, as a earthbound energy, his plan of action was to do just that.
That is so
So
interesting.
so in the spirit world, he was kind of proud of it. Well, obviously, someone may also not be real happy to hear that because there was a grandmother involved. He was married. So
Dang.
we ended up having to send him back home. Step off, dude. But got a lot of really interesting information. And so it was really good. It was a good learning opportunity for everybody in the room because he was so correct. He was so accurate in what he was telling me, and he was
Mm,
so animated, and it was very, very much of what they had witnessed as grandchildren. So
mhm,
so it was very authentic. So, again, you never know what you're going to have or speak to, run into. We tend to be very much about keep it in the right perspective. Never allow, and I don't consciously say this, but I have a relationship with my team. I'm not going to
Yep.
allow someone to come through and create hardship either. I'm not
Nope.
gonna allow them to come through and bully the people that are in my room or the client that's sitting across from me. So it just typically doesn't happen that way. Usually it's much more of a again, a understanding of respect. Sometimes it gets a little dicey. I've had a few
Mhm.
little weird ones, but it's an amazing journey.
What is, and it's one of those things where, as the consciousness of Terry or me, there is a lot of communication that happens in spirit that we don't wake up and then remember, but can still have a calming or healing impact.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
that's a very confusing part of spirit to me because the human part of me wants feels like that it's necessary to remember those connections. So for instance, like if someone were to die and say that we chummed around for hours in spirit while I was sleeping, but I don't remember that when I wake, the human in me is like, that's so unfair. Instead of the gratitude of like, my gosh, I must have had that time because I've noticed my grief has reduced
Right.
significantly. But like, we don't, the immaturity in me still struggles to be like, well, why can't I just remember it too? But,
Well, and that's okay. That's okay to have that as kind of an emotion behind that. You know, more than anything, we grow, we expand from one lifetime to the next. You know, we learn more about basically ourselves. We learn more about others as we continue down the path. We continue from life to life. And you know, the reality is that we play so many roles energetically that one conversation out of a sea of a million doesn't, if you don't remember, it's just fine. Part of you does.
yeah, I know. And, I think in a lot of ways too, I was explaining to somebody, like, if we back everything down or away from us as like the names that we call ourselves now, and then you realize like there's archetypes to this as well, to where like if you're in a mother role, there's certain experiences that will go with that, good, bad, or indifferent. Like, but that it's almost like we're fine tuning some aspects of the archetype because we have had other mothers or we have had other daughters or we have had like so then it makes it very not impersonal but almost like okay, oh my gosh, thank you for being that for me this time
Exactly.
in a
Absolutely.
beautiful way.
Yes. And I'm glad that you brought that up. Exactly. Now, if we looked at, there is a very strong likelihood that we have had several sets of parents, then we can not rely so heavily on this as being the one and done and only.
Mhm.
Because I'll tell you, if I thought that all I had was what I picked for this lifetime, damn, what's wrong with me? Who would have wanted that?
It you mean you don't want to be the first Cleopatra? No.
Gosh, you're so funny. But I'm just happy to have all the experiences, the good and the bad, because again, an experience is an experience. No, I don't want any more bad. Don't get me wrong, universe, God's source universe. I kind of like having an easier path, but we recognize everything is an experience. And
Mm.
we are truly blessed to be in that way, that our soul has experiences. Our energy is designed and created to be magnetic, to be able to continue far beyond the physical world. And
Mhm.
it's good stuff. I love it, love it, love it.
Well, and I guess that I'll leave you with a question. I'm curious what your feedback is because I think this is a beautiful statement and I think it's unfortunately slash fortunately very true. But given the fact that your first class you have whenever if you ever take on a mentee is perceptions, what do you think about the statement of this? That it is entirely unimportant that something happens to you. And it is all of the importance is what you do after that experience.
I like that. Yes. It's exactly right. It is what you do with the information. Life is never going to be all about, pretty flowers and everything's, puppies and kittens. There's a lot of this world that is basically by design not so wonderful. So what we do with our experiences, our interpretation of the experiences, that doesn't mean that, we've got to walk around pretending everything is good when we feel opposite. Well, the simple fact is we have to look at it from all perspectives, and how that flows. And and a little bit of this is it kind of explains it, but doesn't. I had I think it was a father. I can't remember. I think it was a father that offered me some candy from his pocket, and I could literally see this energy walk to me. It ended up being a lemon drop, and I said, "Okay, for everyone in here, who's gonna think this is very strange, bear with me, but I'm gonna accept this lemon drop from this kind soul, and you're gonna think I'm nuts when I put my hand out. So, let's do this." And I did. And I picked it up, and I put it in my mouth, and I've done enough perception work, I could taste the lemon drop, okay?
Mhm.
And it was just as real to me in that moment because energetically, that's what he wished to give me. So
Yeah.
I was going to accept it. It was a gift. He was like, "That's what I'm having. You want one?" Well, sure, give me one. Sure, I'll take one. Thank you. And so, what we do with the information after we're given the information is important. There's a lot of beautiful,
They just showed me
measures.
the metaphysics of what they were saying, that if we render our reality not only co-creatively, but as it occurs, they were talking about how the only difference between that whole room being able to see and taste that candy is essentially proximity of their magnetic field, the field of the lost one. And y'all decided to join in the same space where both of you saw the lemon drop, both of you could taste it. And then as you exited, that's like, but that's real. Like, they're proving that in quantum physics right now. So it's just like my favorite. I don't know who on my team does this, but over the past couple months, somebody's very motivated in showing, like, this is all being proven in the physics of metaphysics, and that will be what it is. Our vindication will be later on when we're gone, but the reality is there is a lot of reality to what you
Absolutely.
do, what we do.
There
It's
really
about
truly
that
is.
bubble of gnosis. I love that.
Right, yes, and I do
Well,
as well. I'm
yay!
very, very grateful. I truly, truly love every
We have
minute
done it.
of our conversations. Yes, we have done it. Can I put in a little bit of a mention of my new working space?
Yes, I'm so yeah,
Okay,
actually.
well, it's not
News to me
100%.
too.
Well, I know because until I sign a contract, it's never real. But I have a
Okay.
potential. I have a strong likelihood of getting some more information that will be very public in about October. I am going to be, of course, you'll know before that. Family knows first, but I want everyone to know that I am in the process of negotiating for a space right now that will include a large group room. And because it'll include a large group room, I'm a firm believer that if you're going to offer something to the community, you do it right. And there's a lot of things you're going to be hearing about. A lot of really cool classes, a lot of community information, and it's coming out. And as I make sure I have this space, and I'll also be out of the country for 10 days in October. So I want to kind of get that done before I hone in
Yes.
on the rest. But I do have an opportunity. So more to come with that, more to share. Keep your fingers crossed that I get to sign this contract, and if I do, well, there we will have it. Be an interesting
Yes,
take.
I am so excited. All of the energy being sent towards you of that being exactly as you want it to be. I
I
invite
am
the
very
audience and all
grateful.
that see this to send that same energy because we want that for you. It's gonna happen for you,
Very
period.
excited. Very, very excited. And we're gonna see what happens. If it's meant to be, it will. I'll know in about a
Believe in
week.
that.
I do
Well,
too.
yay! Okay. I
Okay.
can't well, hopefully we'll have news later, but I'm so excited.
I'm very excited as well. More to come.
Manifesting, fingers crossed.
Yes,
Yay!
absolutely.
Well, until next time, I will see you
Yes.
next week. And I'm
I'll
so,
be
so
here.
excited.
I'm excited as
Yay!
well. To all the listeners, keep loving life. Life is meant to be enjoyed. Yes, you'll have those moments, but enjoy all the rest. Thank you.
Keep knowing and growing, as you said,
Knowing and
and
growing.
love first, wisdom second.
Absolutely.
All right. I love you, and I'll
Love
see
you.
you. I'll see
Soon.